Franchise Secrets, Erik Von Horn.
If you're not a part of the Franchise Secrets Facebook group, what are you waiting for? It's franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. I cannot believe how valuable this group turned out to be. When someone asks a question, the feedback is honest, authentic, very helpful, and it's from multiple perspectives. If you're not sure that you're getting the most accurate information about franchising, then check out the largest, most helpful Facebook group in all of franchising. Whether you're a Z, a Zor, a buyer, or investor, join our free Facebook group at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. On this episode with Paul Tran of the Halal Guys, he had 11 stores, lost 2 of them through the pandemic. So lost significant sums of money. We're talking 7-figure losses by letting those 2 stores go. And that was with investor money and their own money. So we get into what it was like losing money, losing locations, and all of the lessons that are learned with that. Because in the hard times, in the trenches like that, there's so much to be gleaned and so much to be that you can learn. And so he was not afraid to go into that. Another thing that we were able to talk about is raising money, because he did that when he first started his location. I think there was 4 partners and they raised $5 million. It's like, how do you do that? What are the terms? How much equity do you give up? What does it look like? How do the investors get comfortable with that? And so I know a lot of you out there are interested in raising money versus using debt, using bank money, using other people's money as investors. So that was a fun conversation. And a recurring theme that just came up is like choosing your hard. And he talked about that a lot. Like, you have decisions to make, and not all of them are going to be easy. There might be 2 hard decisions that you have to make, and you just have to choose your hard. So I really enjoyed this episode with Paul Tran with the Halal Guys, and he's done all kinds of other things in franchising, and I hope you enjoy too. Paul, I've been looking forward to having you on the podcast for a while now. Welcome, buddy.
Thank you, man. I was telling you offline that it's crazy when 2 busy people try to make something work. So a lot of back and forth, but we're here now. So
it's so hard. And I try to only record podcasts on Wednesdays, and only do it once or twice a month. So yeah, I'm not very flexible with that. And so it's so good. I know you got a lot going on. Why don't you give the audience a bit of your background?
Sure. And thank you for having me, Erik. And I've known about you in circles for quite some time too. So kind of star-studded right now. But for me, I've been in the restaurant and the franchise industry for about 20 years. Started into the business in 2005 when I had this crazy idea during college to start a restaurant. How hard can it be? There's probably a much deeper story there, and we can get into that if you'd like. But just for quick intros, I dropped out of school because I wanted to give the restaurant the best chance possible for success.
Like, how old were you when you dropped out of school?
I think I was like 22.
Okay.
And I used a little bit of student loan money. That's the right way to use it. And then I had a couple friends who claimed that they knew how to cook really well. And we were all friends. And it was me and 3 other friends. We decided to start a restaurant. And it was a Cajun seafood restaurant. If you're familiar with like Cajun crawfish,
of course
boil.
I am, man. I mean, I live in the Black Hills of South Dakota. What do you think?
So most of my interviews are like with people from like California, New York. So I have to end up having to explain myself. So forgive me.
Like, I mean, we're talking hamburgers and potatoes and things like that's what we eat out here. But no, I've spent a good amount of time in New Orleans and love the Cajun cuisine.
Oh, nice. Okay. So, pretty much this cuisine didn't exist in California. So, or it was really in short supply. And so we decided to open up and made a ton of mistakes. And it was my first experience operating restaurants. And I think it makes me a better franchisee, franchisor, and franchise advisor, because now looking back, I probably made, like, not even exaggerating, over $1 million in mistakes. And I feel it's something that a franchise fee could have probably eliminated right off the bat, right? With learning curves and mistakes and not doing it alone either. So that pretty much was my first experience. I was luckily, thankfully, even though I made a ton of mistakes, we also did a lot of sales. So we were able to absorb a lot of mistakes, and
Sales make up for a lot, don't they?
they do, and so I actually got bought out after 3 years of running the business. So that was a blessing, and it was amazing timing because that was when the 2008 collapse happened. And so during that time, though, I got a lot of franchise requests for my restaurant, and it was really cool to hear, but I had no idea how to franchise. So that set me on a path to learn how. And I researched a bunch of companies and stumbled upon this company that was based in DC and also had an office in California called FranSmart. They were specialists in taking, food brands and helping them grow. And as I was mentioning to you, Eric, like that was when I first heard that they were the ones that grew Five Guys from 5 stores to now well over 2,000 stores around the world, and they do about $1 billion in sales. So I figured they would be the right people to approach. I did show my concept to the executives there. Had a great meeting, but they said that my concept wasn't franchisable yet. But apparently I hit it off really well with them, because they said, "Oh, by the way, are you running the store passively or actively?" I said, "I have a really good manager in place." And they said, "We're growing right now. Would you like to learn the business?" And so I said, "For sure." And that's pretty much what set me on a path for the next 10 years with FranSmart, where I learned how they grew Five Guys, and they also grew Qdoba as well. When it was only 1 store, I think they have like 400 stores now, and they got bought out by Jack in the Box. So I pretty much learned, how to take small brands, put systems in place, teach them how to sell franchises, teach them how to, recruit the right franchisees, and, all the A to Z stuff when it comes to growing a franchise brand.
Yep.
Gosh,
I love it, man. I love it. You learned by working for somebody else too. So I can see why, the folks over at FranSmart, that you ask an entrepreneur a question of like, how many hours are you putting into your business? How tied to the business are you? When someone says, not very tied to the business, I've got freedom, I hire the right guys, it makes my ears perk up. I'm like, they're doing something right. They must be putting in systems and have SOPs and just, have the right mindset of a true, really good entrepreneur. So I can see why they took notice of that and be like, "Hey, come on in and work with us." So that eventually turned into you selling for the Halal Guys. Is that right?
Correct. Yes. So for the next 10 years, grew a few brands, and it was until we actually Halal Guys is actually a favorite brand of mine personally. Every time I travel to New York, I don't worry about the Statue of Liberty and all the other things. I have to make sure I line up at the Halal Guys cart at first before I do anything else. And so it was always a personal love of mine. And so when they agreed to work with FranSmart and helping them franchise, I was just over the moon, because it was a personal love of mine. And in the process of working with them, as I mentioned to you offline, I was looking around the marketplace, and everyone's done pizza, everyone's done burgers, the usual suspects. And there was nobody doing anything on a leadership level when it came to Middle Eastern Mediterranean food. I mean, there's Kava Grill and there's like Luna Grill and a couple other guys, but I still feel like the pie is still can be shareable and everybody can win. So I felt like Halal Guys could be the one. And so I ended up asking them to, if I could be not just an advisor to the brand, but also a franchisee too. And thankfully they said yes. I felt like this is like insider trading, legally, of course, because when they finally announced that they were franchising, California got at least 500 lead inquiries like within the first month. Yeah, so we pretty much were able to front run that a little bit. But yeah, I built a team because I knew I couldn't do it alone. I raised a little bit of money
So
to
we're
do
talking
that.
about your brand, your particular franchises now. So you're building out a team. So you eventually you bought into the Halal Guys. You grew it to 11 locations, and then the
Correct.
pandemic hit, and you lost two of them. And I asked you before we started to hit record, can we talk about those two losses, those two hits that you took?
If
Because
I were
that's
you,
not
I would want to
fun.
know that too. If I were you,
Oh,
I'd want to know too.
and you're like, yeah. And your comment to me was like, yes, I learned a lot of lessons during that. And so we started to go into some of that. So one, thank you for being willing to go into that, because I think entrepreneurs that have taken some, like hits, or, have some bruises, have some scars, have some wounds because of bad decisions they made, or just things that happened that were outside of their control. But I've had those. I've lost money in franchising, and I'm a better person. I'm a better entrepreneur. I'm a better franchisee. I'm a better franchisor for it. And so, like, I'm excited to get into some of those lessons. So you went to 11 stores. You raised money to get to those. So let's talk a little bit about that. And you're currently helping certain franchisees raise money as well. And I'm just about ready to get into that process myself. So I'm looking forward to learning from you. But
Sure.
let's talk about that. Rewind in time. You had 0 Halal Guys open, and you needed not just a couple $100,000, but you needed some good checks written to you to help get these things opened up. What was your mindset? How did you go about doing it?
Yeah, and yeah, happy to share all of that. And I think the mindset was naturally, Dan Rowe, he taught me a lot about entrepreneurship as well. And one of the things I learned was, at least I believe, is that debt is always cheaper than equity. And so I tried to get a bank loan. We tried to go through a bunch of banks, but of course, restaurants tend to be very high failure rate for banks to take a solid bet on. And so we did try to go that route. We got rejected quite a bit, and so we just said that we definitely need to raise capital. There's no way that we could do the brand justice and take on a large territory unless we raise capital. So we, thank goodness, I'm not the only Halal Guys fan out there. We actually have a pretty good network of people who also go to New York, who also love the cart. So we were able to, I'd say we were pretty lucky because we were able to raise a $5 million fund pretty quickly within maybe 2-3 months.
Wow.
And so yeah, we raised that funds and at those funds, and we just started getting to work right away. I think within the first year we opened 3 stores in one shot.
Wow.
I think this combination of we have a pretty good team. Also, real estate was, I think it was just my experience at FranSmart and just all the connections I made, were able to get real estate available to us, and we felt comfortable hiring a really strong multi-unit operator as well right off the bat. I say we
So
over
kind of like your district operational manager, the person that is going to run those things. So you did 3 right away, knowing that you had the capital to do it. You're like, I'm going to hire my second in command. I just interviewed Cameron Harold before I was on with you. I don't know if you know who Cameron Harold is,
no.
but he wrote a book called The Second in Command. He was COO of 1-800 Got Junk through their largest growth year
Oh,
early on. So
okay.
Cameron was on. He's amazing. But so this is perfect. Like, people are probably listening to this podcast after they've listened to the Cameron Harold episode. So
Yeah.
you raised $5 million in a fund, opened up 3 stores back to back, probably meaning within 3 months of each other, roughly.
Well, the first store was in October 2016, and then February 1st was the second store. So we got 3-4 months. Yeah.
Nice.
And
That's what
then
we
the
did with
next,
Sola when we were, you live in Irvine. I'm like, hey, I had a Sola there. We opened up Mission Viejo in the Kaleidoscope Center. Then Beach and Warner in Huntington Beach. And then our third one was at Culver Plaza in Irvine. And that ended up being our best one. But we opened them up in probably a 6-month period back to back. So
oh,
I know what it's like having 3 stores, either opening, signing leases, or in construction, and it's a lot of work. We
yeah.
didn't have our district operational manager at that time when we opened up, and it was 4 of us owners. We were the franchisees doing it ourselves, which was a disaster. It would have been much better if we would have brought on our district operational manager from day one. So what was the decision to bring in your second in command as you were opening those up and not waiting?
Oh, and that's great to hear as well. And I think that's probably why you're able to help effectively show people how to do the semi-absentee ownership as well, right? That's through those hard lessons.
Yeah.
I think for me, I think so. I'd say my path is probably not as conventional, and if you're just starting off, you probably shouldn't be as aggressive. I think I just had a different angle because I worked with FranSmart for so long, and I kind of saw what it took to have a large organization quickly. Otherwise, I wouldn't have started the way I did. I think that for us, I knew that I didn't want to be, nor would I be the most qualified person to be in the stores. I put pride and ego to the side, and I'm not the best one to make a halal plate of food. So we just hired the best, and we hired someone that was already had the bandwidth to manage. Already came from another. Her name was ECAT. She managed a bunch of Jamba Juices and a bunch of like other restaurants, and all in one. She knew how to do team building. So we hired someone overqualified for one store because we knew that she'd be able to handle store 2, 3, 4, 5, and she's still with us to this day.
Oh, that's awesome. Did you recruit her away from
Yes,
a current job that she had?
we did. We did.
So I have somebody coming into I think speaking of both franchisees and franchisors and the masterminds, that is amazing at recruiting top talent away from competitors. And one of the dirty little secrets in franchising, most people don't know this. Like if you see a franchisee that's crushing it out there, or a franchisor that had a corporate office that's crushed it, one of the things to ask is, who was your key person? And did you hire them away, recruit them away from a top performing franchisee or franchisor from before? Because I've seen some of the best out there. That's their strategy, is they will hire them away, and it might help. They come with a book of business, they come with a Rolodex of people, or they come with knowledge and experience to really help accelerate that growth. So that's why I have this guy David coming in to talk about that to my mastermind members, because I've seen Zors and Z's accelerate their success by doing just what you did. So like you're kind of validating why I'm doing this next session. So, and she's still with you. So like, what has her growth trajectory been since she first started out with you to where she is today?
Yeah, and 100% agree with you. And I mean, of course, the pandemic and the economic uncertainty, I think, has made a lot more awesome people with amazing work ethic, unfortunately, are unemployed. But back then, I mean, I'd say that, the best people are not easily available. They're busy working, they're busy killing it for other companies too. So it's a little bit harder to worth it, but a little bit harder to pull them away, and we paid a premium for that. But for ECAT, she, we paid her, we probably paid her a little bit higher than a normal general manager would be, because we
did the same. We did the same. We were good with it. We easily justified it. So 100%.
Right? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like because of that, like I'd say I probably only spent like maybe a month in the stores when we first started off. But it's the difference between not ever having to put a fire out and being able to focus on finances, marketing, opening the next locations, or being stuck in the store and putting fires out and being buried and can't see yourself past store 1, store 2. It's crazy how much we're not willing to. Some people are unwilling to pay a little bit more just for that freedom. She has grown to. We paid her as the store manager for the first store. As we opened store 2, 3, 4, 5, we pretty much already immediately gave her raises as she needed to train the next store managers, build the team. And we gave her a card and we gave her a bunch of perks. And now she also drives to all the stores, checks in on them, coaches them, puts systems in place to where we get all the reporting needed. She's pretty much our front of the line report to everything that's going on in the stores. So right now she's our full-on district manager. She's probably had a pretty nice pay increase, but well deserved. And we try our best to take really good care of her because she takes really good care of us. And that's what's been able to help us through all the growth and all the success.
So here's the deal with the Franchise Tribe Mastermind. It's full of a bunch of successful franchisees across many different industries, many different brands, and you get to be a part of that. Now, if you've had any level of success in franchising, you've probably been around top performing Z's in your current brand. So think about that. And if you could do that with 40 plus different brands, industries, franchisees, that's the value in the mastermind. I bring in some of the best speakers in the world. We talk about some topics that will never be talked about anywhere else. So if you're interested in being a part of a group like that, check out franchisetribe.com. So if you're listening out there and you wonder why they were able to go from 0 to 9, why Paul and his team were able to do that, they have this district operational manager from day one. And whenever I hear, like, as soon as you said she's still with us, I'm like, oh, you're doing something right. You have the right culture. You have the right mindset. You're paying them more. You got, you're taking care of them and you care. So there's so many things that go into that, but it's no wonder you've had the success that you've had. And I just know that there's a lot more to unpack there. If she was on the podcast right now, she'd probably be bragging you up and everything that you did for her and your family and all of that. So listeners out there, when you have the right person and they have your back, you have their back, like you can do so much more. It's like 1 + 1 = 3. Like that's where you get exponential growth. That's where you're able to take time away from the business. That's where you're able to empower them. And I bet she says, Paul, stay out of here, stay out of my way, stay out of the offices. You focus on the things that you're really good at and let me take care of these things.
Yeah. You make me sound like I knew what I was doing. That's awesome. I like that image of me. I'd say we just got so lucky. I think we'd like to believe that we offered to pay more, and I think we have a pretty good judge of character, I think. But yeah, I'd say ECAT pretty much helps run the whole ship. We get out of her way because she knows how to run culture. She knows how to do all the things. And so
what's the thing that you almost ruined with her? Did you almost do something where like, she's like, I might leave? Or is there any mistakes that you've made as an owner with your manager? I made one of my managers cry one time. And one of my, yeah, I'm not perfect. When one of my fellow, he's my business partner, he's like, Erik, you didn't need to do that. You didn't need to say it like this, or you just need to tone this down. I'm like, oh, you're right. So like I've made some, I'm not the best manager. I'm a good leader. I'm a good, good at a lot of things, but like managing people, some of my business partners have been better on that side of it than I am. Now I've learned a lot. I've been able to become better in that. I'm a people person, but yeah, man, I've made mistakes as an owner dealing with managers. I've overstepped boundaries of my district operational manager, and I started managing the people that he was supposed to be managing. Well, that doesn't work very well. So what have you made any mistakes? Have you made one mistake as an owner dealing with your district operational manager?
Oh, how much time do you got, buddy?
Dude, I got all kinds of, I want the best one. No, if you have any lessons that you're like, oh yeah, this is a good one. And if you don't, that's fine. We can move on to some other things. But I'm always curious about those management lessons, things that you've learned, or maybe it's just something that you did really right and you did it on accident. And that's fine too. I just like to pull out some learnings when people have a really good district operational manager.
Yeah, I'd say two things glare out at me. The first one is I think that we've had it pretty good because we were, the adage about hiring, it's slow to hire, quick to fire. I think we did take some time we did sort through hundreds of candidates. And so I'd like to believe that because we were busy, I don't know, making sure the pick was right. Yep. I think it's made everything else easy. It's like choose your hard, right? You can either 100%. Choose your hard now or choose it later.
Choose your hard, yep.
Yeah. So I'd say we probably dodged a lot of bullets. That we're pretty spoiled with ECAT. The second thought is because my team, we have a team of 5 people, including me, and I think early on, I think we all were just so excited about the business. We wanted to all put our contributions, our ideas in there, and I think that just created too much complexity. So I think that kind of overwhelmed ECAD and our other managers, because it's more like, who do we report to, stuff like that. And so through trial and error, we just decided to appoint one of our partners to be the main operator, who's, again, like you said, there's probably partners that run it better than me. And so we just pretty much go do everything through Thomas, so which is my partner's name. And that has pretty much helped everything in the line of communication become so much better. So I'd say that we probably overwhelmed them with just maybe too much parenting, is how I think about it. But it's been fixed, and it's been a godsend since.
So a couple of quick comments on that. We had 2 or 3 wrong managers for us as we were building out these first 3 solas. Then we decided to do what you did. Let's go through a lengthy, time-consuming, energy draining process to hire one right person. And we did that, and he was absolutely the right person. So that's gold there. And then we experienced the same thing. There was 4 of us owners. We each had different styles, different personalities, different personality profiles on the disc profile, and predictive index and everything, all different. And it didn't matter. We just needed one of us to manage the district operational manager, or to empower him. So we couldn't all manage. And so we needed him, and he needed like one kind of person to kind of report to and whatnot. And so that really helped. And I would also say he could have reported to all of us, and he did at different times, but the lower level managers, they couldn't do that with all of us. They needed one person, and we've made a big mistake with that. So that's some really good learnings in that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Oh yeah, just clarity over what's expected of you at work, and clarity of leadership. That helps a lot. Yeah.
So let's talk about some losses, losing money. I'm sure it was not more than $10,000 that you lost when you had to close down two of your locations.
Oh yeah,
that's tough. I mean, your locations are in the LA County and Orange County,
yes.
Markets that had been hit hard by the pandemic and politics and the way things were out there. You weren't like in South Dakota where everything was wide open, most of the time, and so what happened? Like, let's just go back. Like, COVID happened, you're a business owner. What did you do? And then how did you lose those 2, and some lessons that you learned along the way?
Yeah. I've already made peace with it, so that's why I can talk about it. So during our rapid growth phase, I'd like to believe that, to a certain degree, of course, the pandemic had its unique damages to a business, but I'd also like to believe that, pandemics or other downturns, they don't cause problems, they reveal problems. I'd like to believe that during our rapid growth phase, we probably maybe got too confident, or got too confident about certain sites that we chose. And the 2 stores that didn't make it through the pandemic were, one of them was in West Hollywood, and one of them was in downtown LA. The downtown LA one, I believe that, before the pandemic, we were doing well over $2 million a store out of that store. Very busy daytime, very busy catering. It was an incredible kick-ass business. But when the pandemic hit, the stay-at-home orders, no one went to the store. It was a ghost town. It was actually pretty unsafe there as well. In fact, one of our store managers almost got apparently one person got like stabbed right next to the store manager. And it was not fun.
Yeah.
But I'd say under normal circumstances, that one should have made it through, but it just didn't because of the unique pandemic. And the lesson learned there was more like, you probably want to depend not overly depend on one day part, which is the lunchtime and the catering. So that one was a tough one. And the other one was even more of a bigger, spectacular loss, because that one was West Hollywood. We found a corner location that was beautiful. It was larger than we normally would have taken it. Yeah, you hear that a lot, right?
Larger in the most
Yeah,
expensive area.
yeah. Yeah. And the demographics were right, but again, we overly depended. Number one, West Hollywood rent is just stupid, and we ended up paying like $21,000 a month out of a 2,100 square foot space. Like,
Wow.
looking back, I'm like, I just cannot believe we did that. That was the highest rent we paid. But the store did really well. It was trending 3 million a year, but it heavily depended on the walking traffic and the night crowd, because West Hollywood is known for all the crazy parties. So we were there for all the parties, and we did really well. But of course, the pandemic just shut that like overnight. And again, another lesson about just being overly too dependent on, not diversified on your day parts. And overpaying for real estate. And yeah, we lost, I mean, each store costed about 600, 700,000 to build. And that sucked because our investors took a really bad hit. So it was messing with our mental health there.
Wow.
A lot of our workers ended up having to lose their jobs, and we couldn't keep them despite all the stimulus stuff and all the relief. And it was tough. It strained a lot of relationships, and we lost a lot of sleep over it. But
Let's dig deeper into the
yeah.
wound. We opened up the wound. Let's dig deeper. 600K to open up. Then you've got the leases, lease guarantees. Do you have personal guarantees or some type of guarantee on there? And I'm guessing you did. And then I'm guessing that you negotiated with the landlords to buy out of it. But as much as you want to get into that or can get into that, I'd love to kind of share some learnings there.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's one of the other blessings as well, because during my time at FranSmart, I noticed that all the franchisees always were trying to negotiate, like eliminate personal guarantees. So for West Hollywood, because the rent was so high, I think, and I think because the spot was just so highly coveted, we fought really hard, and we actually didn't have any personal guarantees. So we dodged the bullet there.
But you had to fight for that.
We had to fight for that early on. So it's more like front loading this. It's more like, and this I think is an important lesson, because I think most franchisees are so excited to open, just like hiring someone too. They're just so desperate or excited to hire someone. They don't take their time, and they don't like cross all the T's and dot the I's. This is about choosing your hard. We fought this one for probably over a year, almost a year to get that lease. Yeah, just for that to happen. So that's probably why it hurt a little bit more. But yeah, we don't have a PG there. We did have a PG for downtown. We did no, for that one, because we had a little bit of like the relief funds, we were able to pay rent even after the store closed, and the landlord was willing to accept rent until he found a replacement tenant. So we did pay for almost a year actually before he found a tenant to replace us. So that one hurt pretty bad even after we closed the store.
But that's why it's important to, if you are leasing and if you are in a desirable area with a landlord that doesn't have a bunch of vacancies, worst case scenario, you lose that lease. You're not able to be in that business for whatever the reason is. If it's a desirable area, location within that particular shopping center or street, then it's more likely to get leased out. And I'm a commercial landlord. I lease commercial real estate too. So you got to look at it from both sides. But I think that's something that people should consider. How desirable that is and how likely it is to get released, because that can certainly help in a worst case scenario where you have to close the business down.
Yeah. Contingency planning is not something you can fade, because I mean, looking back, like moving forward, like all of our stores now, we try to eliminate personal guarantees. There are some leases where we actually pay extra deposits in order to eliminate the PG. We make sure if we have to have the PG, it can burn off in like 3 years.
Yep.
Everything we can
like
do.
with a 1 year rolling or something like that, or just completely burn off. And
Yeah.
that depends on your tenant improvement dollars. Like this is all fresh in my memory because we're getting ready to get into new locations in one of the brands. And then I've had an attorney come in and speak to the mastermind on personal guarantees. And I've had some really good discussions with someone that has been able to not get personal guarantees on their lease. I had them come into the mastermind to talk on how they're able to do that. And one of the things that he said is like, he has an entity, and basically a good name of the entity. It's like a private equity type company. It's like, you're dealing with my CFO. Like, and so it's less mom and poppy and more like bigger businessy. And that's like not the right way to say it. But if you go to a landlord and like, you're not going to talk to the franchisees. This is a company and a corporation. You're going to be talking to their CFO. And so sometimes you're able to, because of that, you're able to, present a different picture, paint a different picture than, hey, I'm just a single unit operator coming in, trying to make it work. Don't really know what I'm doing, but I want a bunch of TIs. That they're really like their warning signs are going to go up, and they're like, if I'm giving a bunch of tenant improvement dollars and I'm paying out this leasing agent a bunch of money, like I'm out, $100,000-$200,000 on this. And so that's why they need personal guarantees.
Yeah. Oh, that's a pretty awesome way to think about it too.
Yeah. And they've been able to do a lot of these locations without personal guarantees. Attention franchisors, if you are not bringing in many of the right franchisees, sales are slow, it's stealing too much of your time as a founder trying to award franchises to the right franchisee, there's a better way to do it. That's why I started the Franchise Sales Mentor. If you want to have access to the information, the techniques, the ways that the best franchise sales organizations are awarding franchisees, then you might want to check out the Franchise Sales Mentor. The reasons that franchisors join is because they want access. They want access to my Rolodex. They want access to my connections. They want access to shortcut both short-term and long-term success to increase enterprise value to their brand. All right. So you lost north of $1 million. And even worse than that, I'm guessing, or as bad as it was investor money, people that, you were pitching to at some point and said, hey, this is our plans. What we're going to do. Here are the risks. And everybody knows the risk, but nobody likes to think about the risk when you're getting ready to invest, and they're doing well until they weren't. So like, walk us through dealing with the investors on something like that. And are the investors in all 11 now, all 9 of them, or were they like in tranches of 2 or 3?
They were in tranches, and so some of the investors they still got to benefit from the other stores, and also I think that we didn't get too. I mean, I think some investors, unfortunately, we did lose or strain some relationships there. Just naturally, because money makes people act funny. But I mean, thank goodness we were able to be pretty transparent with all of our books. And so when they asked for audits, we just sent it to them. And there's just no dispute that it's just the business just couldn't make it through the pandemic. So thank goodness we just had everything cleaned up, and we're always up to date with our numbers. Again, it's the whole choose your hard thing.
Yeah.
Let's choose our hard first, so that it's just so much easier now to like break bad news or whatever it is. So yeah, I mean, I'd say we probably lost some friendships there, unfortunately. But everyone was understanding, and yeah, we just had to move on.
And I know investors. I've invested in different deals. It's not a matter of if an investment's going to go bad, go south. It's when. If you invest in enough deals, and many deals, there are going to be deals that don't make it, that go south. As an investor, one of the nice things is if you put in $100,000 into the investment, that's your downside. You're not, you don't have more risk most of the time versus that. It depends how everything's written out, but that's your downside risk. And I'm sure you guys as a group lost money on it too, because it wasn't just 100% purely investor money. So there's losses for everybody. And that's just something to keep in mind as you start to invest, whether it's in franchises. And even if you open up enough franchises, like the people that I know that are uber successful, like they've lost money. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, you probably are around some of these bigger franchisees that are doing very well. They're making millions of dollars a year, but not everything they've touched turns to gold always. So
it's the social media problem, right? You only see the good stuff. You don't look at the all the bloopers and all the mess ups. So yeah, 100%.
So you're so you raise money. What did the deal structure look like, or what does it look like on future deals that you're doing? Just to give the audience some perspective. It doesn't need to be exactly your deal or whatever, but I love the audience to have an understanding of what raising money for a multi-unit franchisee would look like.
Yeah. This is a great question too, because a lot of companies, they don't know the first thing about how to raise capital. So this is a good thing. For us, what we did was, early on, we raised the 5 million. The way we did it was we raised it like at a rate of 500,000 per store. And the way it worked is, because the first few stores were the most high risk, what we did was our equity structure was, we were 60% ownership and the investors would be 40, because we needed to make day-to-day controlling decisions. But we gave them an accelerated preferred payback. So even though they got 40% of the business, they got an accelerated artificial temporary preferred return of 80%. So they get 80% of the profits until they got 100% of their money back.
So if they put in $100,000, the investors puts in $100,000, and that's for 100%. Like their piece is that's part of 100% of the build out and the cost to get one of these open. So call it 500,000. So they put in $100,000, and somebody else put in $400,000. The business starts to make money. On every dollar that comes in, the investor is paid back 80 cents on every dollar. The general partners, or you guys, are paid back 20 cents on every dollar. And so it de-risks that for the investor, because they're paid back a pref, and so they get their money back quicker. It's a de-risk thing. I like pref on that. That's what we would do for our investors as well. And so I like that. And then once they're paid back, is there an acceleration or a catch up to the GPs?
No. So that also is the incentives are aligned there, because we want to get our 60% as soon as possible too. So we work extra hard to get them their money back, so that we can flip it back to the 60-40.
Okay.
And then also on top of that, we just like a hedge fund manager or a property manager charges a certain fee. We do charge a 5% management fee on the sales of the stores too. So that was making sure.
Is that above and beyond the management of the location? So like that comes out of kind of net profit is at 5%. It's there. Is that accurate?
It's off of gross sales.
Off of gross sales. Okay. It's kind of like a royalty.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
Yep.
And then, so yeah, that's pretty much how it happened.
And that's for putting the deal together and whatnot, and managing.
Just daily active management as well.
So you're not taking any management fees yourself. That is the management fee, or are you getting paid out of that? There's nothing on the P&L that says this is going to Paul.
No. That just goes
out of the 5% gross.
Correct.
Why did you decide to do gross versus net? Like how, or structure it a different way? Like what's the reason behind that? I like it, but I was just curious.
To be honest, I think that it was just the path of least resistance. And because, if property the way we told the story was, property managers get a certain percentage off of that. Franchisors get a royalty. Like I think just off of gross sales, we didn't get any pushback for that. So that was a little bit easier.
The path of least resistance is the answer too. Like if your investors are like, this easy to present to them, they're good with it. Like, okay, we'll do that. Anything else that you think would be relevant to franchisees that are wanting to raise money? Like anything else that you would let them know, like, hey, consider this, think about that. Debt's always better. If you can go debt, you're going to be able to make more money. Advantage of using investors is if you need to open up store number 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or 20 faster, you go to your investors, because if it's been successful, they're happy.
Yeah. I think that another reason why our investors were okay with it was because we did show a pretty well done pro forma as well. They saw that after paying that, after preferred paybacks, like they made money. They stood to make money. So it wasn't just telling them that and not sharing them how it works out. So we did show them performance and all that good stuff. And yes, by store 9, finally we were able to get a loan, and that was a beautiful thing because we got to own all the store's profits. So we're pretty blessed there. But it took giving away a lot of equity and stuff to get there. So it was a long game thing.
Well, I think this has been a valuable episode. We got into lessons learned, deep into that, and we got into fundraising. And I think that's, like I said, it's not something that we typically talk about. And so I appreciate you, giving the audience a lot of perspective on really both of those topics. And congrats on your success over there. And I know you do a lot of different things in franchising. So what's the best way for people to follow you if they kind of want to see what's going on in your world?
Yeah, just be ready for overwhelm and like this all of being bounced all over the place. But I am on Twitter, and it's Paul T Tran, and also my LinkedIn as well, which is Paul T Tran as well. So they're both the same.
Awesome. Any last bits of wisdom? Anything that you think that you want to leave the audience with before I let you go?
There's a lot of things. There's so much that I can share. I guess if anything, I'm curious, what's one that you usually leave your interviews
flipping
with?
it. You're flipping it back on me.
No, you're
One
helping
of the
me
things
inspired.
I'll give a little bit. One of the things that I am working on right now is for my mastermind members and franchisees and franchisors and my investing mastermind members. I want to know how I can serve them better. I want to know like I've designed my life to only do the things that I want to do right now. I was just talking to Cameron about that. Like my life is I'm only doing the things that bring me energy, that bring me joy, the things that I want to do. And yet I want to find out ways to help my mastermind members kind of achieve the life that they want to have versus just show up and do the things that I want to do with them.
Yeah.
So I want to, for the mastermind members, I want to get them into a place or help them get to the place of life where they have more freedom and flexibility and they know why they're doing this thing. So it's not just about chasing more money, chasing more dollars, chasing more employees or more locations or more of whatever. Like I want them to be at the place where they're giving more money than they've ever gave before, where they're impacting more lives than they've ever impacted before, where their families are better than they've ever been before. So I want to start looking for areas of impact that I can have with my mastermind members. And so that's something that I would encourage everybody to think about, like what impact do you want to have on those people around you? And that's what I would leave the audience with, since you flipped it back on me.
No, I love that so much. I think it's all about contribution, right? I think it's unsustainable to always be consuming and it's me. It's more like, what can I give instead? And that's a much more sustainable thing. And it's the gift that keeps on giving. So I'm glad I flipped it around on you. That actually gave me time to marinate. I think a recurring theme that you and I were discussing, at least I was sharing, was just to choose your hard.
Mm-hmm.
I think most people they have low pain tolerance, or they want it the easy way. I'd say that if you decide to, you can either make pain and choosing your hard voluntary, and it'll always be not as painful as the involuntary pain. Like if you decide to do extra, there's a statistic that says that 9 out of 10 businesses fail right after their first year. I disagree with that. I don't like that statement because there's so much more context that's missing. I think I'm pretty sure a bunch of those 9 out of 10 businesses probably didn't do their homework. They didn't do the hard. They didn't choose research. They didn't build a team. They let ego get in the way and all these other things that I feel like is the easier way. And so I'd say whatever you end up doing, choosing real estate, choosing your partner, investing in something, do your research, do your hard, be okay with saying no and walking away. Just the recurring theme is to choose your hard, so that choose your hard now so that the later is easy. and not the other way around, like everyone else who's struggling. So maybe I'll leave you with that.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, man, thanks for coming on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Erik. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Franchise Secrets Podcast. Whether you're watching or listening, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to whatever channel you're listening on. If you want my help with anything from buying a franchise to franchising your business, please visit franchisesecrets.com.